Over the last couple decades, Sarah Borges has built a loyal following, playing live shows and releasing several albums. Her first record, Silver City, was praised by NPR's David Dye for showcasing an unusual knack for mixing alternative rock with country. She stays very busy writing, recording, and touring, but in early 2020, Sarah, like many musicians, became isolated from concert halls and even recording studios. Missing that audience connection and camaraderie of working with other artists, she continued to write and record from home, singing vocals into her iPhone, utilizing her clothes closet as a vocal isolation booth. Stay tuned to hear more about how that experience took shape in the form of her latest album, Together Alone. The track you're hearing, Wouldn't Know You, is from that album. Welcome to Season 3 of Frets. You're listening to Frets with DJ Faye. No lessons, no technique info. I just talk to people who play guitar. Stay tuned. Hey, Sarah, how are you?
I'm great, Dave. How are you?
I'm good. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk today. This is great, and I'm very excited that you are the first guest on the new season of the show.
No way.
You are, indeed. Well, it's 2023, and here we are kicking off Season 3. And by the way, I was going back through the early episodes recently, and I remembered that one of your songs appears very early on in the second episode of Season 1.
Okay, you have to tell me the circumstances by which that came to be.
I was going to say I wasn't sure if you were aware of that. But yeah, the second episode was with Eric Amble. And when we started talking about what songs to use for the episode, Eric suggested your song, Wasted My Time, from your album Together Alone.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Eric, of course, produced that album and played guitar, and I do want to talk more about your albums and music, but we will get to that in a bit. But yeah, I was wondering if you were even aware that at one point your song was on the show, or one of your songs.
I was not aware, but I'm so grateful to Eric for, he's Eric Roscoe Amble, so I always call him Roscoe,
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful for Roscoe for giving me some props there. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I think you need to just start listening to the show.
I know. Again, I was so unaware.
Right. Well, long before your album Silver City came out in 2004, 2005, I think?
Yeah, 2005. It was 17 years ago.
Wow. Well, before that debut, I want to go back, if we can, to your early days. You're from Taunton, Massachusetts?
That's right.
Which is known as Silver City.
That's right.
One little trivia I do know about that is that parts of Scorsese's Shutter Island were filmed in Taunton. Other than it being a historic district, I don't know a whole lot about your hometown.
Well, the place where they filmed Shutter Island is like deserted and desolate, and it's creepy. My grandma lives down there. It's really funny that there were people lined up outside the fence hoping to catch a glimpse of Leo, but I don't think it happened too often.
Right. Well, when you were young, what music were you listening to back then?
So when I started doing music at all, it was in the form of like chorus and drama club in school. And I was a relatively shy kid, but that really gave me an outlet that felt comfortable for me. So I was, listening to like top 40 radio when I was a little kid, mixed in with my parents' record collection, which was, music. They're children of the 60s. And so lots of music from that time period, as well as, later records by like Bob Dylan. Fleetwood Mac Rumors, of course, was a huge record that we listened to all the time. Judy Collins and Leonard Skinner. And my dad had a taste for country music too. So these are all things that I listened to, but I don't think I had formed my own musical tastes yet, But there was a radio station out of Providence, Rhode Island called WBRU, and it was what was known as college rock at that point in time.
Right.
So it was more like indie rock, and they would play not only bands that were sort of that wave of indie rock in the 1990s, but also bands that were local bands that you could see like on a Friday night at your club because we lived so close to Providence. So it made it seem really, really accessible to me that being in a band was an option.
Well, was guitar the first instrument you learned to play?
Yeah, I was always a vocalist before that. And then I had a family friend who played guitar, a friend of my mom's, and he taught me some chords and lent me a guitar. And then I started writing some songs. So it was very much a, organic process, I guess.
Right. Well, when you first started getting out to hear live music, what were some of the bands or artists that you would go see back then?
Well, there was a band called Morphine from Boston.
Oh, yeah.
And, I've seen them so many times. There's a square in Cambridge, Massachusetts named for Mark Sandman from Morphine. But that was the kind of band that I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I can't even put my finger on what this is, but I know I really like it.
That saxophone, yeah.
Yeah, Dan Colley. And then later on, it's so fun because a lot of these bands that I loved when I was, when I first moved to Boston proper to go to college, I got to know these people later on. And that has been a thrill, for me.
Yeah, I used to see Morphine quite a bit at Mississippi Nights, which no longer exists. But great venue in St. Louis, and loved going to see those guys, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they used to play just all the time. And I do remember seeing them at a very tender age of like 16 and really just being blown away. So that was something that was important to me as a young person. And then, all the bands that came out of, there was a studio here called Fort Apache, and bands like Throwing Muses, and Buffalo Tom. These are all local Boston bands.
Yeah.
But then as I got a little bit older, there was a thriving roots music scene in Boston here too. And, there's a gentleman named Dennis Brennan, who's sort of the musician's go-to show. Everyone goes to see him on their night off because he's just a master. But people like, Duke Levine, who's an amazing guitar player and is out with Bonnie Raitt, he plays with Dennis Brennan and we can see him on the regular. So once I kind of discovered that scene, it sort of tuned my ear to other kinds of music, including like roots music and country music.
Yeah, Buffalo Tom. Well, I had, was it Let Me Come Over? I had that somewhere around here. There's my old beat up CD that I used to play.
Oh, yeah.
I also read somewhere that you were a big fan of Nick Lowe.
I'm a huge fan of Nick Lowe, and someone gave me his Party of One record, which I think came out in, I don't know if that's 89 or 91, but someone gave it to me when I was a senior in high school. And it's, at the outset, I wasn't sure I liked it because there's songs like Refrigerator White on there. I'm like, what is this about? I don't know what this is about, but I like it again. But now I've never seen Nick Lowe, which is so amazing. I keep missing him, but I thoroughly enjoy his entire catalog and have a secret crush on him.
For me, the standout track on Party of One is Gaijin Man. It's just such a fun, weird, energetic song. But I am a huge fan. I've seen him a few times, and one of my all-time favorites. On a recent episode of the show, Ben Vaughn and I were talking about our love for Brinsley Schwartz and all the real early.
Yeah.
Pretty much all things Nick Lowe or something I'm interested in.
Yeah. I did a tour of years ago with Los Straitjackets and got to know those guys pretty well. And they've been playing with Nick Lowe a ton. And they did records together, and there's a song called Tokyo Bay. I don't know if you know that song, but it's a Nick Lowe Straitjackets tune. And that one just blows me away all the time, he's really so multifaceted, whether it's like the rock pile stuff or the Brinsley Schwartz stuff or the more delicate, beast in me kind of stuff. But oh yeah, I could listen to him all day. It really.
The last time I saw Nick Lowe, Low Straitjackets were his backing band, and I think that's a great fit. I mean, I think they work really well together.
Yeah, it's like just left of the dial enough where it's new and fresh and exciting, and I don't know, it is a really good sweet and sour match.
Right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. That's Eric Roscoe Amble from his classic album Roscoe's Gang, produced by Eric, along with Lou Whitney, and featuring Ron Rongo Gremp, Joe Terry, and D. Clinton Thompson, all former members of the Morels. I hope you'll listen to my 2-part interview with Roscoe in Season 1 of Frets with DJ Faye.
That was the hottest gig in town, the Morels gig, and there was a sign, and Rongo was at the door, and there was a sign that said, Donnie's sick, the Morels can't play tonight, but Lou has sent the Del Lords from New York City. And really, for our band, that made St. Louis became a second home almost for us, throughout the band's existence.
Eric Roscoe Amble from Season 1 of Frets. You were in a band called the Broken Singles. How did that group come about or come to be?
So all of the guys that were in that band were in other bands at the time, and it was sort of like a Sunday get together, drink beer, play country songs kind of thing. And then we started, I started writing songs in that vein, and then we started playing shows. And then what ultimately happened was that we went to South by Southwest and we got a record deal with this label called Blue Corn Music, who put out my records today, so it was that never happens to bands, but it did happen for us. And we've had evolving members over the period that the Broken Singles existed, but primary to the Broken Singles has been my bass player, Binky, who it's not really a Broken Singles show unless he's in it. And I still play with them from time to time, but they're not currently the touring band.
Right. You worked with a couple different producers for your early albums, like Paul Coldery. He produced like Uncle Tupelo's No Depression and a lot of other great albums. Did he produce a couple of your early albums?
Yeah, he did 3 records for us. Silver City, and then the following 2 after that, which were the only 2 that weren't on Blue Corn. They were on Sugar Hill.
Yeah, okay.
So those were what I think of as like the big budget records,
Right.
But Paul, he's done Uncle Tupelo, but he also did like Radiohead, Pablo Honey.
Yeah.
So he was instrumental in that Fort Apache scene that I was talking about earlier. So he really taught me a lot about even just the business of being in a band. And I did 3 records with him. So but unfortunately, the studio that he had here in Boston did shut down, so that kind of terminated that possibility.
Yeah. We talked about Morphine. I think he produced at least 1 Morphine album. I don't know. Hey, I know he did a lot. So.
Yeah, and I think he did some stuff with Treat Her Right, too, sort of the precursor to the Morphine thing. Yeah. So, yeah, he had his hand in kind of everything. Such a smart guy. And really has been able to do some amazing things. I was so young when I made those first 3 records, especially Silver City. I was 23, 24, and he really had to show me what to do and how to record. I had never done it like that before, where you block out time, and it had just been this ad hoc thing at like a friend's studio back in the early days. So he really taught me a lot about how to be professional.
At what point did you meet and start working with Eric Amble?
So there used to be a band in Boston called Girls, Guns, and Glory, which is now called Ward Hayden and the Outliers. And they had done a record with Roscoe. And he came down for a record release show, a bill that I was sharing with them. And we met. We had a mutual friend in Jimmy Ryan, who's a Boston area mandolin player and songwriter, and who also appears on the Morphine Cure for Pain record. See, I'm bringing it all together here, but we really just got on well, and kind of wanted to play together some more, and we shared the stage that night. And so when it came time to make another record, I thought of him, and that was, this is our third record together. So that was a while ago.
Yeah. Well, for my money, when Roscoe is involved either producing or playing guitar or other instruments on an album, it's just bound to be great.
Yeah. He kind of, what I've learned about him just through like learning his history and stuff is he really came to making records in a very cool way, whether it was like his early days in Wyoming, playing in bands there, or going to LA and being in the beginning of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, or playing with Steve Earle or the Del Lords, or he's really learned about music and making records from being in bands. And some producers maybe haven't been in bands as much as he has, but he's really done it all too. So he's got the ear for it, he's got the business sense for it, and it's incredibly helpful to me.
I think you're absolutely right. I think he's got just so much experience over the years with all that.
Yeah. And so varied too, like he really is knowledgeable about a lot of different kinds of music and a lot of different ways to play music.
Yeah. Are you a coffee drinker? Peter Cohen, also known as String Bean Pete, offers the finest beans from around the world. Pete roasts in small batches in non-computerized, old-school ways to music, under a disco ball. You heard that right. Pete also plays a mean bass guitar. And he owns and operates String Bean Coffee. He offers many fine roasts and blends, including a decaf option, and now also String Bean Half Calf. Learn more about Pete's story and where to get his great coffee at stringbeancoffee.com. Well, I felt very fortunate to get that sneak preview of sorts of Together Alone when he suggested wasting my time for that early episode of the show. That was shortly before the official release of Together Alone. I love that album so much. And what a lineup. You've got Roscoe, you've got John Perrin from NRBQ, of course, former Bottle Rockets bassist Keith Vogeley. It's a great album, among others. There's a lot of great people on that album.
Yeah, it really, and it's so funny how it came to pass, because when we started to make the record, we were in the middle of the lockdown portion of the pandemic. Yeah. And so, getting together in the studio just wasn't an option. And again, Roscoe is so brilliant because he sort of made this MacGyver kind of way of recording where, he told me what mic to buy to plug into my phone so I could do the acoustic guitar parts and the vocals at home. And then I would do it to a drum track, and then he would put that into Pro Tools and sort of have folks play on it from afar. So some, like John Perrin, for example, like I know John, but we never played together in the same room for the record. So, that, and it just wasn't possible. And it worked out amazingly. It worked out. So we're looking at making another record, and we might try and do some of that again, because it was incredibly fulfilling in some way that I just didn't expect.
Yeah, I think in the liner notes, it even talks about you had recorded some stuff on your phone and sent it to Roscoe?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
I know people in that period were just having to do a lot of, like sharing files via Dropbox or whatever. But yeah, it's not the first time I've heard of people saying, yeah, I actually sent that to him from a phone recording. But wow,
Yeah.
it was a weird period back then.
I know, I would say, 70% of the acoustic guitar tracks that are on that record are recorded at home.
Wow.
So, and it was fun a little bit to do it that way because your self-editor is turned off. If you know that you're just creating for yourself and you have multiple times to do it in private, you're somehow not so critical. Whereas if you're in the studio and all eyes are upon you, it's a little bit different. So I didn't expect the liberation of doing it that way.
Wow. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, I do too. All these little, unexpected silver linings, I guess.
Back in August of last year, I had such a great time seeing your show here in St. Louis at Off Broadway.
Oh, I love that place. That is one of my favorite clubs to play in the U.S.
Still my favorite. Yeah. After all these years, it's still my favorite place to see somebody.
Everyone, every time we come, it all started for us coming to St. Louis because of Rick Wood bringing us to Twang Fest and also the Wood House Concert Series,
Mm-hmm.
And we made a lot of friends that way. And then we started playing it off Broadway. And then Roscoe has such a connection to St. Louis because of the Bottle Rockets that it just kind of coalesced into having a really good show.
Yeah, I'm such a nerd. I remember saying to you at that show, I was like, by the way, I didn't swipe this button I'm wearing off the merch table. I got it. I got that when I ordered the album because I was wearing my little Sarah Borges pin on my jacket.
Oh, we leave the merch table unattended a lot because we have to be on stage. But I always think if anyone steals merch, their karma is so bad. I knew you didn't steal it. I did.
I'm an honest guy.
Yeah.
So can we talk about you and Keith?
Oh, yes. Let's.
I used to always incorrectly pronounce Keith's last name as Vogel. It was John Horton who let me know it was Vogele. Is Vogele? And now, am I pronouncing that right? Is it Vogele?
Vogele.
Vogele. I'm still messing
Vogele.
it up. Vogele. All right. I'll get it
you
right.
You are not alone. It's a difficult one. Mine's not easy either. But Keith tells a really funny story that he's played extensively through the Bottle Rockets with Marshall Crenshaw. And Marshall, for years, never had it correct. And then one day he heard someone else say Keith's last name and he was like, no, I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Yeah. No, Vogele.
Okay. Vogele, not Vogele. By the way, I'm just curious. I assume that was Keith's mom who came to the show that night at Off Broadway. Was it?
It was.
I thought so.
Yes.
Yeah. It seemed that was very sweet. He was I got there early and he was kind of helping her get to a place to sit and everything. It was great.
Yeah. It's so it's a funny thing. I used to not like it when my family would come to see me play. And then now I'm like, well, it's really fun when your family or your loved ones are there.
Well, you and Keith live in different cities still or not? I don't even know the situation.
Yes. It's a multi-time zone relationship, and we both have children. And so that's sort of what makes that mandatory right now. He has girls and, they live in the Springfield, Illinois area. Mm-hmm. And I have a son. And then they, all of these children have other parents and school and friends and stuff. So that's what's happening with that. But we tour together, we do visit, we do FaceTime, and it's been just great to play with him, on a different front, just because he is such a great bass player and his time in the Bottle Rockets, he played in that band for so long, and played so many shows with them.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. After her family moved from the Philippines to California, A teenage June Millington heard a girl playing guitar at school. Soon after, June and her sister Jean were playing acoustic guitars and ukuleles at variety shows. Before long, they were playing in bands, now with electric guitars. After several personnel changes and band names, the Svelts and Wild Honey, they landed a recording contract. They changed the band name to Fanny. People took notice, including David Bowie, who referred to Fanny as extraordinary, as important as anybody else. Their first time playing a large venue was opening for the Kinks and Procol Harum. Fanny made their mark as a fantastic and much-loved all-female rock group, and June Millington has made her mark. She's artistic director at Institute for the Musical Arts. IMA runs rock and roll performance and recording programs for girls and young women. June recently released a new album, Snapshots. Her autobiography, Land of a Thousand Bridges, Island Girl in a Rock and Roll World, tells her amazing story. I've been a fan for years, and it was great getting to talk with June Millington.
Hey, everybody, this is Sarah Borges, and you're listening to the Frets Podcast with DJ Faye.
Well, I love London, and a couple months after that off-Broadway show and your U.S. shows, you guys played shows in London, and I was really wishing that somehow I could have made it over there. Judging from the photos in the post, it looks like you all just had a fantastic time there.
We did. I had been over there a few times before, but part of it is that I was a really heavy drinker and who is no longer a drinker. And so the previous times I had been to the UK or to Europe in general, I'd just been drunk, and don't have great memories.
Foggy memories, yeah.
Foggy memories, totally. But this time, clear-headed, got it. And then Keith went to England and so did Roscoe, and we played with this guy, John Powney, who plays with Warner E. Hodges. So it was a really wonderful lineup, too. And we just had a ball.
And you're about to play a show with Miss Tess back in Massachusetts.
Right. We're doing a mini tour. I guess it's sort of a regular tour. It's 8 shows. The first chunk are in New England, and then the second chunk are Pennsylvania and New York. But, I've known Tess. She used to live in Boston. She's a Nashville-based artist now. She's a hell of a guitar player, a really great bass player. She plays a lot of different styles of music. So we've played with her before. So I'm excited.
Well, what else is on the Sarah Borges horizon? Any projects in the works or more tours?
Yeah. So they're re-releasing Silver City in March, and it's going to be 17 years since that record came out. So they're re-releasing it on both CD and vinyl. So that's exciting. And folks can expect to see some live tracks that we acquired over our tour this summer to appear on streaming services shortly, right around that time too. But then also we're doing the Outlaw Country Cruise in February, which is always just so much fun. And it's always a great lineup. It's Big Allie Anderson from NRBQ and Lucinda Williams and the Old 97s. And it's just always so fun. So we love doing that.
That sounds fantastic.
It's great. And then we're starting another record, too, is our plan here. So we're going to try and get one done sooner rather than later because, like I said, the last one was such a positive experience.
Silver City on vinyl. I'll have to get that. I've been starting to buy a lot of vinyl again recently. I got a better turntable than I had for years, and I'm slowly rebuilding up my vinyl collection. I would love to. I'll have to add that.
Well, Together Alone just came out on vinyl too.
I'll have to get that. I have the CD and the button, of course, but but I don't have that on vinyl. I will have to.
Well.
Invest.
It's in the web store. And Silver City we don't have yet. So I haven't seen it, but I know it's coming.
I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing you play live again sometime soon, I hope. And if it's not in St. Louis, then somewhere. I love seeing shows when I'm in other cities.
Oh, yeah. We love the Midwest because it's a place where we've consistently just had a great response. And I'm not sure why that is, but, cities like St. Louis or Chicago, or Springfield, Illinois, or Kansas City, like all of those places, Omaha. It's a circuit that we do, and we always do it every year, if not twice a year. So it's my expectation that we will be out there before too long.
All right. Well, keep my radar out for that.
Yes.
Looking to buy a guitar, an amp, pedals? Find great deals on all of these, as well as audio and recording gear at reverb.com. You can also sell your gear through Reverb. They have great articles about music gear and bands. And Reverb believes music makes the world a better place. That's why they created Reverb Gives, that provides youth music education programs all over the world with the instruments they need to make music. Link to Reverb through Frets with DJ Faye in the show notes for this episode. Well, Sarah Borges, I can't thank you enough for kicking off this season, and this has been a lot of fun.
Oh, Dave, thank you so much. Happy New Year, and thank you so much for having me.
It's been great. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Thanks for listening to Frets with DJ Faye. If you like the show, you can follow or subscribe for free at most podcast platforms. Hope you'll join me again next time. Stay tuned.